Thank you, Professor Purvanand, and thank you, Mr. Jose, for inviting me to speak here today. I'm sorry if I will bore you guys because I am not a public speaker and you guys may know most of the things I will say. And like Mr. Jose said, Christianity is not something I thought I would ever speak about because it was not an identity I was conscious about until probably a decade ago, until it was brought to focus to say that you are a Christian first and then probably an Indian. And I may bore you also because I'm going to be reading from a paper. So coming back, no, the RSS and its allied organizations whip up fear by attacking minorities and creating a false narrative of Hindus being in danger. They target Muslims, claiming love jihad and other sorts of jihad. For Christians, the tactic involves concerns about conversion and portraying Christians as a threat to India's demographic. So I'll stick to the conversion aspect because of the limits of time, and a lot of the violence emerges from the conversion aspect that Hindutva thinks is dangerous. And there are instances in the book that I was worried about, like there are killings that happen because they say you have converted certain people. But is that justified? So I may not be speaking about the violence in Manipur or the violence that happens in UP or in several other states. So I'll ask a few questions here. Why is changing one's religion so controversial? I believe it should be looked at, like Professor Purvanand told while we were talking about this, like switching political parties. It's often seen as strategic and not scandalous. People change parties most often driven by political or personal concerns. And so converting to a religion is just like that. It's about personal growth or better opportunities. What is so wrong? And does the fact that some individuals changed or converted to Christianity for economic or social reasons make it inherently wrong? How do you view the next generation? Like my parents must have converted, I don't know. We don't know a history before like 5-7 generations. Some new, most people you will meet will be at least 2nd, 3rd generation Christians. They do not know another religion. So how do you view that generation? So, and they are all happy with their community. So it is, and some of this may be repetition, so I'll start with a law point and then move on. So we have to understand the difference between propagation and proselytization. Propagation means sharing one's faith and proselytization means coercion. The Indian Constitution under Article 25 guarantees us this freedom to profess, practice and propagate. The Article 15 also, we should remember, prohibits discrimination based on these aspects, but we know what happens. So in the case of Reverend Stanislaus versus the state of Madhya Pradesh, it was made clear that to propagate one's religion is a fundamental right under Article 25. So explaining this, I'll give an explanation that H.M. Sirvai gave, not me, in the Constitution Law of India, where he says that the term religion, the expression the right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion includes any religion. The freedom of conscience allows a person to choose from various religions and to convert to one that they accept, provided they are willing to comply with its requirements. Therefore, conversion does not interfere with the freedom, rather than it fulfills what is there in Article 25. This aligns with what is the history of Article 25. Despite all of this, as has been mentioned, there are anti-conversion laws being made in several states, and I can't even keep track of it. But that is because, just to maintain my sanity, like you just can't believe it is happening. The latest is that of UP, where the UP Unlawful Conversion Religion Amendment Bill was made even more stringent. Now it's a 20-year imprisonment. This will affect both Christians and Muslims, but it will be different how they are affected. And according to an article in Article 14, 62% of these FIRs alleging conversion to Christianity were registered based on complaints by third parties, including Hindutva outfits such as Bajrang Dal, VHP and RSS. This is contrary to the provisions in the state's controversial laws itself. The law says only a person who has been forced to embrace any religion or blood relative of that victim can approach the police or register the FIR. But no one seems to follow the law. And in 4 years, 1,682 people have been arrested, and 835 cases have been registered, but conviction, 4 cases. All of you know this, so I'm not going to say. In MP, Christians are picked up and saying that they are converting when they go for caroling, which is supposed to be a fun exercise. It's like small bits of happiness in our lives, but no, it's like it's a crime to be happy. And then I will speak about Graham Staines, because even though you guys might, all of you will know about it. He was murdered by Bajrang Dal activists in 1999. And RSS spread the false claim that his work was converting people, overshadowing the real horror, the brutal murder. The extremists who killed him claimed that the missionaries were corrupting tribal culture. All of this, parts of this are there in the book. And it's an absurd justification for their action. Even when the case reached Supreme Court, there were troubling suggestions that the Staines murder was somewhat justified because of his missionary work, though this was later retracted. And what were Graham Staines and his family doing? They were working with leprosy patients, working with tribals, people whom the society really does not want to see, touch, or forget to work with. So our question comes to, why does RSS oppose the conversions? Is it the fear of dismantling caste system, or a desire to prevent people from rising above their circumstances? I can only hazard guesses. I have no answers for this. It cannot be numbers, because Christians are just 2.3%, like you all know. No amount of conversion can change any demographic. So the real issue may be the fear that conversions expose the ills associated with being Hindu, especially for lower caste, backward caste, tribals, and other disadvantaged groups who face discrimination, poverty, and lack of dignity. Conversion might highlight these issues. In India, as you know, like even when you convert to a new religion, there will be some form of discrimination for sure, but I'll give you a few examples. Like Dalit children in Tamil Nadu are called Amavas, meaning dark, or Pavadai, meaning underskirt. These are real names. But once they convert, Amavas becomes Ambrose and Pavadai becomes Patrick. Real life examples. In one swoop, they do not have to carry the weight of their caste in their names. That itself is a huge deal. It meant that they could pray with anyone that they choose to and not have to stand outside a temple. So why would they not convert? There is another story that I've heard from a tribal acquaintance. For the longest time, Christian missionaries did not have any luck with tribals in several parts. So tribals continued following their own religion, and then the missionaries changed tact. They started to get the land back for the tribals from zamindars, from the government. That is when several of the tribal population thought that this religion is giving them more than what their gods are giving. So maybe this God is powerful. So then some of them converted. While in the case of Dalits, it was for self-respect and dignity. For tribals, probably it was for land and livelihood. But in both instances, it was a fight against hierarchy that people converted. The RSS, we should remember, also demands that tribals should lose their ST status unless they return to their indigenous or Hindu religions. This conflation with the tribal status and with religion is completely misleading and politically motivated. We all know that. There's an example in Kanyakumari. That is one place where conversions happen several generations. And now RSS is gaining ground there. It is one of the first places in this country where the riots against Christians occurred in 1982. And most people there will be third generation or fourth generation Christians. So, 2 minutes. So now they are, sorry. Come on. Yeah. So in Kanyakumari in 1982, that was the first time riots happened as far as I have understood. And now there are second generation, third generation Christians there. So how can anyone expect them to convert to any other religion? That's where the RSS term of Gar Vapasi becomes problematic. If a tribal population has accepted or adopts Christianity, it may not be true conversion, to be honest, because they had no formal religion in the first place. Demanding their return to Hindutva or Hinduism is problematic because it imposes a religious identity they may not have previously had. And also, assuming every minority in India was once a Hindu and demanding their return to Hinduism is flawed. And anyways, what is so exceptional about being a Hindu? It's just another religion. I feel, or the book also suggests towards the end, the RSS reaction must be due to the Christian teaching of selflessness and community. For example, you can see this even in Trivandrum as part of the Vizhinjam protests, because the local population was losing they feared displacement and was losing livelihood. The local Catholic bishops came to protest and to support the affected people, despite government backlash. So what does this mean? The Hindutva's actual enemy is equity. So anything that tries to bring equity will be opposed. Please understand that this is not Hinduism versus Christianity, but Hindutva as a political tool and as a political construct against equity. I say this completely understanding that the church is also a political construct and Christianity not so much. At this point, we should also remember the church was also at one point against science and freedom. 2 minutes. I see you moving, I'm like, oh no, it's like school exam. Now to come back to Hindutva and RSS. See, why did new religions come? They came as a challenge to the new existing systems, old existing systems, as did Buddhism, Christianity and Islam, and all of them advocate for brotherhood. If Hindutva aims to preserve hierarchy while some other system aims to break it, it is clear that Hindutva will view this as a threat. So the issue here isn't about the value of any religion or which is better. It is about just respecting the freedom of individuals to choose their faith. And please don't think I'm holding a candle for Christianity because of my name. But what I care about is actually the law of the land and ensuring that people are not persecuted for exercising their freedom of religion. Wrapping up, I did not take this topic actually to make you fall asleep. I hope you have not. I'm just checking. And I appreciate your patience. And the only takeaway I feel should be that the discussions around all these topics, including conversion or anything, should be centered around the freedoms that our constitution protects. Because we don't know what our judicial process is doing right now. We have seen in Babri and Gyanvapi. So we need to see our laws, we need to ensure that our laws are just and our minds are open while discussing these topics. Thank you. I hope.